Hey, everybody. Welcome to Breakfast All Day. We're back for another week of shenanigans. Alonso here with Matt and Christy. We got a bunch of fun new stuff to review, including the Disney Plus premiere of Hamilton. But first, as always, tons of news, some of it pandemic related, some of it not. Christy has a list.
I do, but should we do marquees first?
Yes.
Oh, by
Let's
all
do the
means.
marquees.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there's not a ton this week, but let's go ahead and do them.
Let's get it out of the way. And happy July 3rd to you all. This is July 4th weekend that we're doing this.
Yes.
And happy Independence Eve.
It's theoretically a holiday, quote unquote. But
every day's a holiday.
But who can tell the difference? All right. So our first picture was sent in by Christy, and I hope I'm getting this correct. Lemire, I think. Lemire, Christy Lemire, which is the French of the mire. No, Christy was out, I guess social distancing, maybe at a museum.
No, this is during hockey practice. Chris and I went for a run around the neighborhood and near the rink in El Segundo. This is the Automobile Driving Museum in El Segundo.
Now, I have a question about the Automobile Driving Museum. Is it a museum that drives automobiles?
Or is it a museum that's about the act of driving?
Right.
It's whatever you want it to be. But there are cars there.
Okay.
And it says ADM. What is
Automobile Driving Museum.
Oh, right. Okay. I was like, what is that? Is that some
It's a kind of dance music.
Right.
I thought it was Admiral.
Right. It's Amish dance music. Cruise in, practice social distancing. It's no task. Wear a mask.
It's true. Mask it or casket.
Ooh,
I like that one.
That's the catchphrase I'm seeing around the world. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So our next picture comes to us from Stephen Lafferty. And let me get to it. Hang on, my controls are in the way now. So, okay. All right. He sent this in. This is the Kiggins Theater. We actually had gotten a picture from this before. They had the long one that had all the Tom Cruise titles a few weeks back.
Oh, right.
They have fun. They're cute.
Yeah, they have fun. So this one says, I wear the mask to protect the people closest to me, Batman.
Nice.
Which we could do worse than follow the lead of Batman. And they also have popcorn to go every Friday and Saturday. Okay, next up.
Your mask has to be the opposite of Batman's because it's supposed to cover your mouth and nose and then whatever.
And I guess it depends also on which Batman you're following. Like I'd follow Michael Keaton, but not Ben Affleck.
Well, and I think Batman Beyond doesn't his face.
His whole face is
covered. Whole face. There you go.
Unlike the Man Bat, who has
no mask at all. Indeed.
Right. Or a shirt.
What would his identity be? Mild-mannered bat.
Yeah, exactly. Wayne Bruce. All right. So Jeff Swanson, who sent us pictures before, sent us some more pictures from Minneapolis. This was the pictures they had up for Pride Week. And we've seen this theater before, the Parkway, which they put the rainbow on their letters. Great for the Parkway. They remind us love is the law. The first picture said all you need is love. And then there's the Parkway sign with the letters in the rainbow pattern, and then love is law. Nice. Jeff writes, Pride Week is not quite the same here in Minneapolis. Instead of a parade, we had a march in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. Figured you could add these to your marquee roundups this coming week. It's the Parkway Theater in Minneapolis. Nice. All right, next, John Rathbun, who sent us some pictures before, this is the latest from the theater here in Little Falls, New York. Sent you one earlier. They have since partnered on a pop-up drive-in project, and this week's quote ties to the feature. I didn't think to shoot it until I heard someone suggest it was a message to the governor. That's the second part. You're killing me, Smalls.
Cute.
All right. Our friend Mark Francis Dong sent us some more pictures. He's from the Bay Area. And this first was what was originally, or not originally, but what used to be the AMC Van Ness in San Francisco. He writes that the AMC Van Ness in San Francisco opened in 98. It was a gorgeous Cadillac dealership when it opened way back in 1921. As a theater, it had 3 floors of movies and a Crunch Fitness, about the last 10 years had been struggling, and then unceremoniously and mysteriously closed in February of 2019, partly due to it being an AMC theater with declining attendance. A Korean company was going to revamp it for 2020. The bottom of that poster in the middle says absolute cinema experience. It's time to transform the experience of watching a movie, make it more intense and immersive by using all your senses: motion, water, scents, fog, wind, lightning, face air, bubbles. Then COVID hit, he writes, and now who knows what's happening. P.S. The chain link fences for all the construction along Van Ness Avenue, a much congested thoroughfare, nicknamed Van Stress.
CGV, yeah, and here in Koreatown in LA, there's a CGV theater that shows Korean language films.
Yeah. Do they have stuff in Feel Around? Remember that from Kentucky Fried Movie?
Yes. But I mean, 4DX, there are some theaters in LA that already have that thing set up, which I've never been to one, but like I've been to the D-Box, but this is apparently sort of the next level one where it's like there is mist and all sorts of things going on.
Matt, you and I saw something in 4DX.
I think it was it one of the Fast and Furious movies or something that was in one of the
But I feel like Nick was there too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nick, remember when like the seats were moving?
It wasn't Need for Speed, was it?
Where like the seats were moving when there was an explosion. He's just chewing his corn dog and looking at me like I'm a crazy person. I have a memory of
But he's not wrong.
Hey, why not both?
Right? Okay, so Mark also sent us this other picture. It's the Fairfax Theater in Fairfax, California, just 30 minutes north of San Francisco.
It's in Marin County.
In Marin County. It's their only movie theater, and their marquee is shouting out to the 2020 high school graduates.
That's a gorgeous
I'm sorry, high school and grammar school graduates. Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay, next up, this is a picture that Alfonso Alonso, right? Alonso Duralde sent me. This was from a newsletter. It's the Aero Theater that says Carl Reiner, a kind and brilliant man. R.I.P. Carl Reiner, who we lost this week.
And we'll talk about him.
And then the last picture is in a marquee, but I want to share this, and I'll put this link in the comments. Jonathan Caro has been doing this great series of kind of best of What the Flick. And if you haven't come across these, I'll put this link in, but if you miss our What the Flick reviews, he's got these great, he's got a whole playlist that he's put together that he did all these himself.
All killer, no filler.
Exactly. So you can see our various hairstyles over the years. It's super, and what we used to look like when we were young. And you know, at least I'm still cute, but
when I had regular access to a barber.
Yeah, exactly.
He must spend so much time on these. I'm always sort of blown away as far as like what he chooses, and it's so sweet of him. And
reviews I forgot we did.
Totally. And studios I forgot we used to tape in.
Yep.
We've had like 5 different studios, so
it's true,
right? So thank you, Jonathan. So that's our shout out to Jonathan. I'll put the link to this playlist in the comments for the video or in the description. So that's it for this week.
Why am I doing jazz hands in all of the thumbnails?
I'm doing it a lot, but I'm at least Mediterranean. I have an excuse.
It's fabulous. Everything is fabulous. Okay, so let's do a little bit of news. I mean, the big breaking news, of course, is the fact that Vanilla Ice had to cancel his concert in Austin.
Because he only just recently discovered how bad the numbers in Texas were.
Like, people have coronavirus in Texas? That's crazy. So he was going to play at some outdoor place along Lake Travis in Austin, and that was like the loophole. It's not a bar, it's not a music venue, ergo it could be done there. And there was this big.
So he just got back at his 5-0.
Yes. Right, with the rag top down so his hair can blow. Yeah, so every single story I have seen talking about Vanilla Ice's concert has some kind of stop, collaborate, and listen pun in the lead. So that's really the sad news.
Fun fact about Vanilla Ice: the lawsuit over whether Ice Ice Baby was infringing upon Under Pressure. He now owns a part of the royalties of Under Pressure.
That's sad.
Yeah, because he won that lawsuit.
Because he put one extra beat in there. It's dim 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 dim. It's a totally different song. Totally
completely.
Have you seen his Home Improvement show?
No. What's it called?
I don't remember, but he's got a Home Improvement show.
Great. Okay. And he has a cameo in, what was that most recent? Oh, The Wrong Missy.
He pops up in several of the Happy Madison movies. He had a large role in That's My Boy, if I recall.
Oh.
Yes.
Well,
a movie I've otherwise tried to completely forget.
Yes. Okay, so that is, of course, the big news of the week. And then, but the next night, Saturday night, I'm guessing this has also been canceled, Color Me Bad was going to perform at the same place.
Who are they going to sex up?
There's nobody to sex up if everyone's dying of coronavirus.
Exactly.
Okay, so...
No, they should, you know what? They should do a home show, I Want to Mask You Up. I want to mask.
Well, apparently the governor of Texas, after being very cash and laissez-faire about masks, finally this week sort of said, okay, I guess we got to wear them. But then he came up with this whole list of where you don't have to wear them, including churches, which everybody agrees is like the single most dangerous place because everybody's singing and, dropletting like crazy.
You're close together.
And like, it was like just a long ass list of things. It was like, okay, so basically we don't have to wear masks in public.
And people wonder why I keep drinking all this rum.
Yeah, I know.
But he closed all the bars in Texas too. And that's something that has happened here in California. Like
finally,
all of a sudden, like immediately. Oh, there's a wasp in the house. Nick, there's some like wasp. Do you see it?
Are there three of you?
It's our wasp network.
Oh, good
Nick,
call.
do you see it? Look.
I was just about to start singing the masks at night are tight and are soft and white.
It's giant. Yes. So it's funny. So Sunday, like in the middle of the day on a Sunday, this news comes down from Governor Newsom saying all the bars are closed immediately. That does not mean restaurants that have bars. That means just straight up bars. Like you want to go get hammered in the middle of the day. This is where you go.
But there's also we dine in at restaurants is not allowed at the moment.
So yeah, dine-in is not happening.
Okay.
So like last night after hockey practice, we went to go support our favorite little place in El Segundo, and they had like the whole sidewalk taken up with tables and chairs, and they were all very spread out, and everyone had on masks. So there's people are trying to find a balance between staying in business and adhering to the rules, which are changing constantly. Understandably, are changing as we're trying to stay safe.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm sure this is on your list, the whole thing about, Broadway having to basically be closed until 2021. It's like any business that requires people to gather together in the same place at the same time are just kind of fucked right now, whether that's about restaurants, whether it's about movie theaters or live entertainment or concerts. Anything that where a congregation is required, including, the churches keep getting these loopholes, even though like I said, they're worse than a movie theater because like in a movie theater, everybody isn't singing and talking, responding at the same time.
Well, that's political pandering. That's pandering is what that is.
But the thing I'm thankful for though, is that we have as a nation set up that people can safely stay home and not have to worry about rent or where they're going to eat because we have such a great safety net that's going to keep everyone sick.
Thank goodness for socialism.
God damn it.
Yes. Broadway closing was actually my first item on my list. And so they're closed for the rest of 2020. And many of these shows may not come back until the spring of next year. Who knows going to be the case?
Yeah. Louis Peitzman, who always has great tweets about Broadway stuff, said, hope you're excited about Dustin Hoffman in Our Town, which Scott Rudin announced this week is coming up. Said, because when this is all over and theaters start reopening again, you're going to be seeing a lot of established shows with big names. Like that's what producers are going to be sinking money into just as a safe bet.
They'll be safe, yes.
It's going to be a while before they feel ready to be daring again.
I don't I'm not. This is for once. I'm not actually trying to be glib about this. Can you imagine the hell that it would be to be a theater performer, especially in New York, where like, okay, no theater's happening. Well, I guess I got to go fall back to my other gig, like in the service. And oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like,
well, then I can always tour.
Jesus,
oh no,
right?
that's not.
No,
yeah.
I can't. Right, like.
From what I understand, Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, which for decades now has been like a very successful nonprofit in terms of helping out, for people in the theater industry dealing with HIV/AIDS and related stuff. They are now sort of expanding their reach just to kind of help out people in the industry who are, like everybody else, out of work for a while. So if you want to support your Broadway community that is currently unable to ply their trade, you might check out bceqa.org, I believe is the thing.
Send me
I will.
If you send me that, I'll put it in the
Okay.
description today.
Yes.
Excellent.
So speaking of things you can't go to, let's talk about movie theaters, because it's our favorite topic of conversation. It's, again, as everything else, it keeps changing. So now AMC has pushed back its opening to July 30th.
Yes.
They were going to open on July 15th theoretically, but they're now saying 450 theaters will open on July 30th. Mulan is now August 21st. Tenet is still August 12th, theoretically. But then I guess this is streaming. I have First Cow coming back on July 10th, but that's be
streaming, yes.
Okay. So again, they keep changing. But did we talk about this last week, that our friend Lindsay Barr went to a movie? We talked about this last week, right?
Yes.
So I guess in some places you can still go to smaller theaters and watch older stuff.
Yeah.
If those of you listening, if that's happening in your part of the world, let us know what movies are looking like, because it's not happening here anytime soon.
Except for the drive-ins, they're still doing a thriving trade.
And they're doing more and more. And those are some of the items I have on my list too, as far as some drive-in events coming up. Go ahead, Matt.
But I think one of the, if we get to a point where there's portions of the country that it is safe to open theaters, and that's likely to happen, I think that you're going to see you'll see wide releases still get held, right? Because I have to imagine that Warner Brothers is not going to open Tenet, for instance, if it's not able to be played in New York and LA, right? Or major metropolitan areas. They're just not going to do it, right? So I think it's going to be, and maybe everybody in smaller municipalities is going to have to become like an indie movie fan for the next few months, because you're not going to get any of the big releases.
Yeah, I mean, if you look in they don't always post it, but periodically in the trades, you'll see like, here was the #1 movie of the weekend, and these were the top 10 theaters where it showed, and they're almost all LA, New York venues, partially because tickets are so freaking expensive in those two cities, but also because they could screen them multiple times on multiple screens and yada yada. And so, yeah, I don't think that your Tenets and your Mulans are going to really try and open at all if they can't do it in the two centers of theatrical distribution. So yeah, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more repertory, a lot of like your IFC films, kind of IFC midnight horror titles. I know we're doing some brisk business. A24 is still planning to open Saint Maud or whatever in like mid-July, right? Has that changed?
I have not seen that change. That was on my list from last week. Let me see if I can find that again. I think that was like the 10th or the 17th or something like that.
But I don't know. I don't see any of this. Again, like if we're talking about whatever, any sort of reasonable set of hoops through which we have to jump to get to a place where we can open movie theaters even at a 50%, everybody has to wear a mask basis, I don't think we're close.
I don't either. There's a thought in my head. But speaking of drive-ins though,
yes,
The Outpost, which we're going to talk about on the show later on today, The Outpost played at the Vineland Drive-In in City of Industry. So Rod Lurie, who directed it, was tweeting out pictures of himself at the theater and encouraging folks to come on down. So I don't know why it is that some movies can and others cannot. Does it depend on your distributor? I don't know.
I think it, yeah, I think for a lot of what we've been seeing at drive-ins of late has either been rep stuff, like they've been popping out like Jurassic Park and Groundhog Day or whatever. Again, stuff like the IFC Midnight Horror stuff, or things like, Irresistible or, The Hunt that kind of wound up going to streaming anyway. So, but I don't think anybody wants to open a Tenet in the handful of drive-ins that exist in this country because there's so relatively few of them. I was just thinking about the fact, like the Mission Tiki was supposed to close at the end of 2019, if you recall. Like they were like, yeah, we're out. And then they were like, well, we'll make it into early 2020. And then this thing came along, and now suddenly it's like, I can only imagine that one of the few silver linings of the nightmare that we're living in is if you run the Mission Tiki, you're like, oh, I guess maybe we're in business for a while then.
Are they showing movies I haven't seen?
They are. I get an email from them every week. Yeah.
Well, so what are they playing though? Like new stuff or older stuff?
Well, like I said, it's a mix of repertory and then like stuff that
whatever they can get their hands on.
Yeah, like Scoob and Trolls World Tour, that kind of stuff. They would open in the Mission Tiki alongside. Okay. Like, okay, for example, last week their Friday email, screen 1 was Irresistible and The High Note. Screen 2 was My Spy and Knives Out. Screen 3 was that horror movie The Lodge, and then an indie called Infamous. And then screen 4 was 2 indies, Force of Nature and Becky. So, they're keeping busy.
Something for everyone.
Yeah.
Wear your mask at the concession stand.
Please.
Okay, so speaking of drive-ins, so this is something that Matt sent me, which I'm glad you did, that Wal-mart is turning 160 of its parking lots into drive-ins in coordination with Tribeca Film. Tribeca has a whole drive-in series going on all this month at a few different locations. The one here is the Rose Bowl.
Yes.
So every weekend through the month of July, they're showing stuff like, they're doing a whole Meet the Parents double feature. They're doing Mean Girls and Wonder Woman, and I believe Get Out and Do the Right Thing. And then they're wrapping up at the end of the month with a double feature of old Tim Burton movies of Beetlejuice and Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So you're not physically in the Rose Bowl. You're like in the parking lot outside the Rose Bowl, but still, at night, it's a nice setting on a summer night to be there. The mountains are pretty and all that.
It would be super meta to be watching the end of Pee-wee's Big Adventure where they're at the drive-in, at a drive-in.
That is true. Maybe he walks through and hands candy to people. Whatever the bikers order, they get their candy. So Tribeca and Walmart, whatever. So all over the country from August through October, they have planned 300 plus showings. So, nice. And then you can go and get your concessions at Walmart. I don't know.
I know that for the Rose Bowl, the rule is like they aren't having concessions. You have to bring your own stuff. They'll have like porta potties and hand sanitizers and ostensibly lines where people have to stay distanced and you have to wear a mask when you're outside of your own car, and you're not supposed to get out of your car except to go to the bathroom. But, we'll see if people behave. I have my doubts.
Yeah, but I think also, like, I've seen that they're doing some concerts here in Southern California where they're like spacing out the cars, so no one is actually next to each other. It's like car dance. Space, car, so you can get out and dance. So again, hopefully we can all have nice things and enjoy ourselves. So yeah, we got a bunch of drive-in stuff. Also, speaking of Texas earlier, Austin City Limits Festival has been canceled this fall. The LA beaches are closed this weekend. They closed at midnight last night. They are closed until
the Jaws mayor is very angry.
The Jaws mayor is, this is going to be your best summer ever.
Going back to what we were talking about drive-ins, I'm going to throw this out here while we're taping, that we should all go to a drive-in at the same time. Not in the same car.
Okay.
But we should pick something and we can like record our experiences and I'll cut it into something. And
that is a good idea. Should we do Rose Bowl or should we do the Vineland Drive-In?
Or the Mission Tiki?
Vineland and Mission Tiki are a bit more of a hike, and my car, I don't know that I could make it there.
Your hoopty.
And my hoopty is not down for the and I don't know. Dave is very concerned about the Rose Bowl. We've been talking about it, and it's sort of like I don't know. we'll see.
Okay, just throw it out there.
I mean, I'm game. I like the idea. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, we have with these Walmart ones. If we could find a Walmart that's doing a drive-in, we have through October.
What's the nearest Walmart? Like Orange County? Are there any in the valley?
No, there's one. There is one in the valley. Yeah, there's one not too far from where I live.
We'll do some recon, and
We've managed to keep them at bay for the most part.
Yes. What else is of note? So the Academy added a bunch of new members, 819 new members this past week. And again, in their new mission over the past few years to diversify and to get younger, among the people they have invited are Aquafina, Cynthia Arrivo, Yalitza Aparicio, Kelvin Harrison Jr., a bunch of the Parasite folks, both in front of and behind the camera. Nice. Florence Pugh, our friend Julia Kim, casting director, who has done an a la carte with me. She's great. Lulu Wong, Ari Aster, and Robert Eggers. Is that allowed?
Oh.
Can you have them both?
Are they the same person? Do we ever see them together?
We don't know. So, a very wide array of folks who are now
several Outfest folks who I've gotten to know over the years. Yvonne Wellbon and Sydney Friedland and Sandy Dubowski. So yeah, it's some very cool people, and clearly they're like aiming a wider net. So that's exciting.
They are doing what they said they would do. Okay, what else is of note? Hugh Downs died.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Oh, wow.
He was 99.
He was one of those guys who was like on TV from the get-go.
Right. He seemed old a long time ago.
Yeah, like he's always been venerable.
Okay, here's the thing. Wow. Here's the thing, and maybe we'll watch this when it happens and we can talk about it. So Mike Judge is rebooting Beavis and Butthead.
Yes.
For Comedy Central. How do we feel about this? I'm a little ambivalent. I don't know. Why is it awesome?
Beavis and Butthead now would be watching YouTube, right? Like they wouldn't even be watching cable television.
Well, they certainly wouldn't be watching MTV.
No,
because MTV doesn't
videos, right?
Right. No, they would be watching. They would be watching YouTube. They'd be watching maybe TikTok. They'd be watching streams. I actually think that'll be hilarious.
Okay.
I mean. Yeah, I think
if you could figure out a way to update the concept, let's say the concept itself is pretty deathless, so why not?
Do you think that it will look as intentionally rough-hewn as it did 30 years ago? As part of its charm.
Well, like it's in the same way that South Park is a very sophisticated rendition of something that looks very cheap, you know.
No, but I wonder, will they maintain that aesthetic in a new version of Beavis and Butthead?
I think so.
If they chase it, yeah.
Well, I don't imagine. I mean, if he's directing, it's going to be based on his character designs, and so I don't think they're going to change that much. I don't think he's going to make them adults. I think that the whole point is like that they're. I mean, right? Like you want them to be
still 14.
The idiot teenagers, right? Yeah, I think that'll be. I'm in. Sure.
Did you guys like Beavis and Butthead when it was out originally?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little old for it, but it was still funny, and I remember liking their movie a lot. Yeah,
I liked it, and the funny thing is, they would play some of the best music.
Yeah,
like he would pick some of the coolest music that MTV would otherwise never play.
Yeah, like that. That's where I learned about The Pursuit of Happiness's Cigarette Dangles. They just spend the whole time complaining about stop giving us words. We don't like reading.
Right? Or the whole thing where they go through Sabotage, like they keep talking about the show and it never starts. Like when they watch Sabotage, it's so funny because they're so mad that they just sit through the credits and then the show's never on.
There are so many songs to this day that I cannot hear without thinking of the Beavis and Butthead version of them. Like there's some Iron Maiden song they play and Butthead goes, "Say what you will about Maiden, they don't screw around." And also, when they play To Paw, Heart and Soul, and Butthead's like, "This chick's name is To Paw." All I think of with his voice, just being goofy.
And who has never been in a grocery store without saying, "I need TP for my bunghole"?
But just the joy when Guar comes on, and they're so happy, and I think it's Butthead's like, you spend, or maybe it's Beavis. No, it's Butthead. It's like, you spend all day watching videos.
That's Beavis.
And this makes it all worse. Yeah, like, yes. My terrible Beavis impression.
Slow down, Beavis. I'm so
Buffcoat and Beaver.
Yes, now you've got me excited about it. I mean, I was a senior in college when Beavis and Butthead came out, and my roommate and I loved them so much. So maybe it'll be good. I don't know.
I do a pretty good Hank Hill. Damn it, Bobby. That boy's just not right.
Very good. So what am I missing? What did I? Oh, so we mentioned this a little bit off the top. We're not delved into it as much as we should. Carl Reiner.
Yes.
Has died. He was 98 years old, fighting the good fight on Twitter for all that matters in the world.
Just want to point people out, TCM is doing a retrospective on July 28th. They've already announced that they are screening 5 of the films he directed, most of which three of which I've never seen, so I'm very excited. They're showing Enter Laughing, which I think is his first film, the hilarious All of Me, the comic with Dick Van Dyke, Where's Papa, and Oh God. But yeah, this is, he has this amazing cinematic career after this amazing television career where he starts out, as one of the Your Show of Shows writers for Sid Caesar. Then he creates the Dick Van Dyke Show, which it was originally supposed to star him, but I guess the network decided he was like too Jewish or something. So
and it was like loosely based on his work.
Yes.
Writing for Your Show of Shows.
Caesar, yeah. It's amazing how fertile that has been, because like you have the Dick Van Dyke Show that is based on people writing for Sid Caesar, and then later you have My Favorite Year, which Mel Brooks produces, which is about people writing for Sid Caesar, which Mel Brooks also did.
Well, because that crew that was writing for them was this murderer's row of writers, right?
Larry Gelbart and Woody Allen and all these people that came out of that experience. Neil Simon, I think, right?
Yeah, I had the wonderful opportunity to goof around with Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner when this was like 20-something years ago. I was working at this AOL division and we were shooting something, and they came in to the control room because they wanted to see how the thing that they had just shot was now streaming. And back then the lag was like a minute. So they had enough time to come in and see it. And then the boss, the head of the company, wants to get a picture of them looking at the computer, looking at themselves. But here I am sitting at this computer. And so the boss is like, Matt, get out of the shot. And so I kind of just like really, really slide down in my chair. And Reiner goes, the kid's dead. And they both start doing fake CPR on me. And I'm like, oh. So it was this great moment. I'm like, I got to be funny with them. That was amazing.
Oh, lucky you. What a great memory. Yeah. And he would just show up at other things and just like, it would just be a total joy to see him. Like, I love him in Ocean's 11.
Oh, yeah.
So, like this total young, hot, star-studded ensemble, but he just brings like this gentlemanly kind of like regal old school air to it. And my name is Lyman Zerga. So he was really, really great in that too.
And of course, on Records, the 2,000-Year-Old Man, like this guy was just
the 2000, for people who've never heard that, if you've not heard it recently, like go check it out. It's so good. It's great.
I'm just so sad for Mel Brooks, because they were best friends, and we would watch Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune together every night, and I thought that was so sweet. And
like 3 days before he died, there was a picture of them together for Mel Brooks's 97th birthday, and they were all wearing Black Lives Matter T-shirts. It's like,
it's amazing. Yeah.
So I used to live when I lived on the other side of the hill in the early 2000s. One of the regular places I would go to eat dinner on the weekend would be Kate Mandolini. And on Saturdays, Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft and Carl Reiner and his wife would come in on Estelle like every Saturday. And like I saw them a bunch, and it was just like, I knew that if I would get there early enough, I would see them come in for dinner. It was just super cool to see them.
So what you're saying is you were stalking Mel Brooks and
maybe.
I mean, you can say that.
Estelle Reiner, by the way, immortalized in her son Rob's film When Harry Met Sally as I'll have what she's having.
Yes. Anyway, so very, very sad news, but what a wonderful life. And he gave us so much for so long. And,
Yes.
and his Twitter feed is a treasure. So go and check that out if you hadn't. So.
And he really, really loved The Net.
The Nets, yeah. That Vanity Fair piece about how much he loves that movie is hilarious.
That's all the news I have. Is there anything else I missed?
I usually send you things, so probably I think that's probably everything.
I think we got it all. There wasn't that much news this week. There's just more weirdness as we.
It's because it's a holiday.
When it was more just just trying to navigate this thing, just trying to be safe.
Sports. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the Christmas update is that Jason Momoa is going to voice Frosty the Snowman in a live-action Warner Brothers movie. I don't know what the hell that is about.
That's awesome.
He was Aquaman, so I guess he can also be frozen precipitation.
Jason Momoa is Frosty the Snowman.
What can't he do?
That'll be great. They should put him in a big round, right, like the Jack Frost type. Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
With tattoos across it, though.
Of course, yes. Etched in the
on the sticks for his arms.
What's the sports?
The sports news that the Redskins are apparently studying that they're going to change their name.
Well, because FedEx, who brands the field, finally said, hey, maybe we should get rid of this, which,
Also, Nike pulled all of their Redskins merchandise off of their website. Okay. That was last night.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, the team puts out a statement today saying, we are considering, quote unquote, it's under review. We are considering changing our name. And I just feel like, and Jen Chaney at Vulture made this great point, like you can't say, okay, we're considering changing our name, and then you just keep Redskins anyway.
No, considering, right, I'll tell you, here's the timeline. No, the timeline is Nike makes the decision to pull the merchandise, which means, oh shit, that's a lot of money, right? There's a whole, that's a pile of money, and that's just the first part, right? There'll be a lot of other money lost. So, okay, everybody hold off. We're going to consider it. And the consider it means, oh shit, we got to come up with a new name. Right? That's what it means. Right?
What I find fascinating in the big picture of all this is, for all the stuff that's been happening this week with episodes being pulled because they had blackface or, all that kind of the things that have been happening in the culture. And somebody said this on Twitter. This isn't an original thought, perish forbid, but they were basically saying, Black people are mobilizing to not be murdered by the police. And all of these little sops along the way are nice. We're not going to say no to them necessarily, but let's not lose sight of what we really want here, And I think it's the same thing with I'm sure indigenous people, yes, would love for the Washington Redskins to name themselves something else, but they've got bigger concerns, maybe don't drill for oil, in our land and all this other, maybe let's not have the coronavirus numbers on the reservation, just be the most insane spikes in the country. And it's what corporate America is willing to forfeit and give up along the way before somebody finally forces them to do the big stuff that people want to happen. It's just been kind of an interesting thing to watch. It's well, that's nice. Okay, well, yes, I appreciate that. That's a step in the right direction. But there's big, major institutional shit that has to go down that that a lot of the keepers of power in this country are not willing to forfeit just yet. But in the meantime, they'll find this stuff in their desk drawer that, you can have this, or we'll give you that. We'll stop doing this. And it's well, that's great, but let's, eyes on the prize.
Matt's thinking of an answer.
Well,
I see
look,
looking.
My take on, I absolutely, right? We need to have cops stop killing people.
Yes.
Right? Full stop. Also, the Redskins name needs to be changed.
No, I'm not saying it's either.
They're both symptoms of the same problem.
Sure, right? I'm not saying it's either or by any means. Yes.
Right, and I don't. I shudder to think that anyone says, "Well, shit, we changed the football team's name. What do you want now?" Like, right?
Oh, they'll say it. You know they'll say it.
But anyone that says that is a fucking douche.
Well,
so
also
let's just yeah, I mean, I saw somebody writing last week or in the week since we talked about the change that's going to happen to Splash Mountain. Like, okay, next up, let's talk about the Jungle Cruise, right? Okay, sure, right? Like, there's absolutely problematic stuff in the Jungle Cruise. Absolutely, let's change that, right? And then this person writes like, and we should change the like pro-colonialism of the Tiki Room. And I'm like, yeah, okay, great. Right? Like, and as someone who fucking loves those songs and the whole idea, like, oh, does that need to be changed? All right, sure. Like, okay.
You know, what I love is, you know, you've seen, is it like Tom Cotton and all these sort of these hard right-wing, you know, politicians like, oh, well, fine, then why don't we change the name of Yale because that guy was a slave trader? And people are like, yeah, okay, yes, let's name it for John Brown, you know, like, fuck it. Like,
I know,
you know, this notion that like we don't want to go after Jeffrey Epstein too hard because it's going to uncover stuff about the Clintons. No, fuck them too. Like, let's just let's get to the bottom of everything. We're not going to like circle the wagons around our flawed guy the way you guys are with Trump, you know.
Or somebody says, I saw somebody writing, one of my, you know, I mean, boy, if Facebook has not become the bigotry detector, you know, who knows whatever will be. Somebody writes, what do we have to change the name of Chinese checkers or Indian burns? I'm like, yeah, change those too. Sure.
You know, like, and I think that this thing, language is always evolving because we're actually sort of like sometimes paying attention and thinking about the ramifications. Like, it never occurred to me where the term master bedroom comes from.
Me neither.
But then that real estate place in Texas was like, well, we're not going to use that term. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's good. Like, yes, let's stop using that. That's gross. Like, it's always been a term that I've heard. I never for a second thought about it. But then somebody points it out. You're like, oh, no, that makes sense. We should stop doing that.
There was a tech blog that was talking about one particular company that was trying to do away with technical terms about like master systems versus slave systems in computing. And I was like, yeah, I could see that. I could see wanting to change that. Like, okay,
there
sure.
Are slave systems in computing?
Well, so like if you can slave a computer to another computer, and it means the slave computer is mimicking what the master system is doing, right? That's how that's been used. So, okay, sure. Like,
there's probably a different way to get that idea across with different words.
That's the point, a Mr. Burns and I'm blanking on his name now.
Smithers.
Yeah,
Smithers. Thank you. Burns and Smithers. There we go.
Yeah, had I thought about it, I'd have written in the comments like, let's go to Doms and Submissives.
Let's play Master and Servant, right? Does Depeche Mode change the name of that song? Come on. That's different. That's different.
That's different.
I know what that is. Okay. Anything else we're missing here? We get it all?
I think that,
okay.
All of you guys have a fun mug from Portland today.
Nice.
Hale Pele.
Ooh.
From Portland. One of the best tiki bars in the country.
Have you been there already
great
today,
bar.
Matt?
I have. No. Maybe.
Gurgle. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on the social medias at BeFastAllDay, and check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. We are doing so much fun stuff. It's exclusive for our subscribers. Right now we're recapping Hulu's Love, Victor, and we've got a survey up now for our higher level members who once a month get to pick out a classic film for us to review that maybe one or more of us haven't seen. And we are paying tribute to the very eclectic career of Joel Schumacher. And we've posted 5 different films of his that are currently streaming. And you get to pick one of them that we will review later this month. So anyway, check that out and other stuff. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time.